Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 374. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today, we got Kevin Rakeshaw. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. Can't complain. No complaints
Nice.
this week.
Good.
On the show, this week we'll be talking about She Dies Tomorrow by Amy Seimetz. We'll also be going over what we've been watching on the watch list and covering this week's VOD and Blu-ray releases. Thank you so much for listening. If you have a moment, consider reviewing us on iTunes. That would be super helpful. Don't really have much housekeeping. The July Blu-ray giveaway has ended. We gave away a copy of the Bruce Lee His Greatest Hits collection.
Oh yeah.
On Criterion.
Oh, yeah.
The new giveaway for August hasn't been posted yet. I need to figure out what to give away. I don't know yet. I didn't look ahead. I didn't look ahead to see what's coming out, honestly.
There's another box set coming out.
What is it? Is it good?
That Varda box set.
Oh yeah, that Varda box.
Criterion.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Maybe. The Bruce Lee one was the first box set we gave away. I don't plan on doing that a lot just because they're expensive.
All box sets all the time.
Yeah, I'd go broke. Honestly, though, it worked out because the Barnes & Noble 50% off Criterion sale,
Perfect.
I got it. I bought it during that. So I'm like, sweet. Save some money there.
Nice.
I didn't get a copy for myself either, so the only copy I have is going out. It's sold out everywhere, too. I was going to buy another copy because it's just easier to drop ship this stuff from Amazon to the winner. Yeah. And that's what I normally do, but in this case, it was sold out. It's sold out on Amazon. So, yeah, I'm just going to send out my copy. Unused, by the way. Unused copy.
Okay. All right.
Let's talk about She Dies Tomorrow. As I mentioned, this is written and directed by Amy Seimetz. I have a synopsis here. Amy thinks she's dying tomorrow, and it's contagious.
Mm-hmm.
Look out. Kevin, we'll start with you. What were your initial impressions on She Dies Tomorrow? Oh,
man. This movie. I don't know what to think, to be honest. This is a tough one for me. So I've been mulling it ever since I watched it. And I'm mulling over it while I was watching it. All that kind of stuff. The idea is a very intriguing one to me. And I like the ideas in this movie. The execution, though, is a bit scattershot for me, especially like the opening, 15 minutes or 20 minutes. It was just that was difficult to get through. I'll be honest. I was ready to turn this thing off. It wasn't happening. It kind of won me back towards the end once more people. And, more people actually talk to one another.
Yeah.
I found that very welcoming.
Oh my God. This is so funny because everything that you're saying is 100% what I was thinking the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, thank God for Jane Addams, because she's the only one that really kind of discusses what's going on and kind of talks to numerous people and trying to figure out what's happening, or at least just talking through what is happening, which it really, really helped. And for me, because everything else I thought was just, I don't know, it didn't really work for me.
I found myself really struggling to keep my attention on this movie. I don't know. I don't know what it was about it. I was not very engaged during this either, and I think maybe part of that is it's dealing with a subject matter of mortality and something that I'm constantly in fear of. So I feel like a lot of times I am Caitlin Scheel in this scenario, and in that regard, I sort of didn't want to see a movie that was that self-reflective.
I can see that because you're just this is my life. I don't I'm living this.
Yeah.
I don't need to see it. Minus, the flashing lights and the garbled soundscapes.
I frequently lay around on the floor, just rubbing my fingers on the wood and just going into my garden and just rustling around in the dirt.
Yeah, you know,
I just like to rustle around in the dirt.
and that's what I mean. Like that idea of this kind of contagious, like existential dread, I think is really intriguing, very compelling. So there's part of that, like when I detach it from the movie itself, right, and just kind of think about the idea of this movie, it's really interesting to me. But I can't just divorce that from the actual experience of watching this movie, because the actual experience of watching it was a bit difficult, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a lot of interesting concepts being looked at here. I think that the fact that it happens to multiple people, so it is this like contagious thing where one person gives it to another, who gives it to another, and so on and so on. And I think that the how each of these people reacts, and they all react in their own way, and how it sort of reflects some kind of like liberation, like knowing when you're gonna die, when the end is gonna happen. It sort of allows you to be completely honest with yourself and those around you. And I think that that's
Yeah,
kind of that's kind of a cool concept to explore. We saw it a little bit in a movie like Melancholia. For instance, I for some reason was reminded of Melancholia while I was watching this. And so I think that it does do some interesting things, but f- the overall package, I couldn't really get on board with it, and the way that it ends, I found to be pretty unsatisfying as well.
yeah, and I feel like it's just a bit over reliant on the flashing colors and the
Mo-
garbled soundscape
lo-
thing.
the I think it's was it is that a Mozart song that plays like over and over and over
Yeah,
and
oh
over,
man. Yeah,
over and
like
over
I'm
and over
saying
and
that
over.
first 15, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes where it's just Caitlin Shield, right? Just her in her new house. Just playing that song over and over again, touching the wood grain,
Yep.
flashing lights. Oh man, that was rough.
Now,
That was
in between these sort of existential dread moments, you have it sort of intercuts these flashbacks where we get to see a little bit of the backstory of Caitlin Shield's character. None of the others, for some reason.
yeah,
The
yeah,
others just pure dread, just them dealing with what they just learned. But with Caitlin Shield, we do get a little bit of backstory. With like she has a at some point she had a relationship with Ken Tucker Audley's, who was playing Craig in this. It should be mentioned, in addition to Caitlin Shield and Jane Addams, you have a really good cast in here.
hmm
You have Katie Aselton in there, Chris Messina, Tunde Adebimbe is in there, Jennifer Kim. So you have a good number of people. Adam Wingard too.
yeah. Michelle Rodriguez shows
Yeah,
up.
and Michelle Rodriguez
I,
too. Just out of nowhere.
I didn't know she was in this movie. I had no idea.
Nor did I. So you have a really good cast, and I feel like some of the sequences worked. As you mentioned, the stuff with Jane Addams I thought was really good. I felt like even though Caitlin Shield was sort of the main character, I felt like Jane Addams had the
Yeah,
meatiest role. Like she had the most to work with as far as like performance.
yeah, I agree.
But yeah, overall, I was a little bit. I don't know. I was just a little bit disappointed. I guess I wasn't exactly sure what I was expecting, but it sort of plays out like a psychological thriller, but it's not. It's not really that.
Yeah, it's it's tough because again, I like that idea of this contagious uh, anxiety slash existential dread, whatever you want to call it, and how you can kind of like bum people out and get them. You can ruin a good moment and then have someone, kind of obsessively thinking about morale or their mortality and how that can just, completely sink an entire day or more or longer. But at the same time, it was never like this thrilling aspect to me, like, oh, is it actually going to happen? And once it started affecting like everyone, it was just like, oh, okay. I don't know, it just kind of like lost a little bit of its luster. And it wasn't mysterious to me. It wasn't thrilling. I don't know, it's a tough one for me because I'm still not 100% sure how I feel about this movie.
Yeah, I literally finished watching this like an hour before we recorded this, so it's still pretty fresh for
I
me too.
I'm a couple of days away from it, and
Still
I'm still
processing.
like I don't. I'm like I don't know. I don't know because there's a part of me like the further out I am from like the actual viewing experience, it grows on me. But I'm almost certain that if I were to go back and watch it, I would be reminded of that actual viewing experience and be like, oh no, that's right. This isn't for me.
Yeah, as far as like rewatchability, could I ever see myself voluntarily going back and watching this again? Absolutely not. Like, there's just no way that I would watch this again. Now, I don't base and
Yeah,
most of my criticisms on rewatchability, but um, yeah, just for me, it was just a tough watch. I did like um the fact that like each person was going through their own stuff, and how isolation played a part in it, and crumbling of relationships and stuff like that. There were a lot of themes going on in here as well, and I feel like a lot of it sort of played into the current. I mean, I think that this is another movie that we can say came out at sort of the right or maybe wrong time, depending on how you're looking at it, just because of the isolation aspect of it and the like contagious nature of this movie.
yeah, yeah. I don't because you're right. I mean, I think for a lot of people, like the headspaces that they're in right now is maybe not conducive to the viewing experience of She Dies Tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the main things that it boils down to, is that I'm not in the right headspace to experience a movie like this and feel like I've gained something from it. But directing wise, I thought Amy Seimetz did a good job. I want her to continue to direct because I think that she has a unique voice, and I think that she brings a lot of new ideas to the table. So I
Yeah. Oh
definitely
yeah.
want to continue following her work, but just for me, this fell a bit short.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
I
right,
agree.
let's go ahead and give She Dies Tomorrow a score. This is a really tough one for me.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
For now, I'm just gonna say 5 out of 10, maybe
That's
five,
I think that
like 5.5 for me.
I think that's what I'm gonna go with too. Because it's also one of those things that I'm still like I would say check it out because I think I who knows how you're going to react to this.
Yeah, I mean, some people might find it somewhat gratifying or even therapeutic in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
but for me, it was kind of like, oh, I don't want to think about this right now.
I don't want to do this. Uh,
uh,
no.
that is She Dies Tomorrow. This is playing in drive-ins right now, and it'll be on VOD platforms August 7th. So if you got the drive-in, check your listings. Check your drive-in listings. Never thought I'd say that. Never thought that I'd
I
be
know.
like, it's playing at the drive-in. Go check it out. Go check out She Dies Tomorrow, a small
At the
indie
drive-in.
thriller at the drive-in. What a world we live in.
Amy Seimetz movie at the drive-in.
It's so strange.
What you see a movie starring Caitlin Shield and Tucker Audley at the drive-in.
Yep. It's wild.
Fucking insane.
Absolutely wild. All right, let's talk about someone watching. Kevin, I believe it is your turn this week.
I got to watch two movies, so I didn't get to watch much. But I do want to say I just started something that I'm super excited about, and that's rewatching. Well, maybe not really rewatching, because I never really watched it from the beginning. But starting the X-Files, which has been very exciting.
Dude, I did that like was it last? I think it was last year, or maybe even early this year. I did the same thing, and I made it through. You know what? It was we talked about the X-Files on the '90s podcast, and that got me going down that road. Yeah. So I was doing the same thing.
Fucking love it.
It's so good, man.
Just a heads up for subsequent podcasts. If you're ever thinking to yourself, God damn it, why is Kevin only watching like one fucking movie a week? That's because all my time's devoted to X-Files. I'm really excited about this project, this endeavor, and I'm pretty amped. But I was able to squeeze in 2 movies beforehand. One of which is The Sender from 1982, directed by Roger Christian. This is the guy that directed Battlefield Earth. So this is an early movie of his, and it's on Hulu. You can see it. You can watch it on Hulu. And this stars a very young Zelko Ivanek. This is like one of his earliest roles. He plays a guy named John Doe 83. So you're introduced to John Doe 83. He wakes up on the side of the road, and he just starts walking down the road. He goes to a park, has this little beach. He picks up a shit ton of rocks, puts it in his jacket, and just walks out into the water, tries to kill himself. So he ends up at the state mental hospital, right? We have no idea who this guy is, what's going on, why is he trying to kill himself, all this stuff. Psychiatrist is trying to help him, trying to find out who he is, what's going on. He's not really being cooperative. And she starts seeing him at his house, or her house. He just starts showing up and stuff. And it's freaking her out. Well, here it turns out this guy, he's able to like enter your dreams and or alter your reality and make you have visions, make you see things, that type of thing. He can like telepathically communicate with you. Now, the only thing with this movie is like the specifics and the parameters of his abilities are never really solidified or entirely made clear, which kind of helps the movie at times, but also at other times it just makes it seem a little bit messy. But it does add like a level of intrigue to the entire affair. It loses its way occasionally, like the sequencing of events is a little bit rough. But there is like the dream sequences that they do with him are just like the atmosphere to him, the way that it's handled is just incredible. There's one scene in particular where the other doctor, this other guy, he's like, we need to just shock him. We'll just shock the shit out of him and he'll be fine. Like that's all he wants to do. He just wants to shock every patient that comes through here. So he decides on his own, he's like, I'm just going to shock this kid. And she's trying to explain to him, like, I don't know, that's a good idea. I don't think we should shock this dude. He's kind of powerful. So, they prep him, they shock him. And as soon as they shock him, they like release all of his power at once. So like people are flying all over the fucking place, and it's all done in slow-mo. It's absolutely incredible. It's such an incredible sequence. And everyone in the entire building, like the entire hospital, loses their fucking mind. It's pretty fucking great. So I definitely recommend checking out The Sender from 1982. It's a hell of a movie.
Yeah, that sounds like one that I'd really be into.
Oh, you're gonna love it.
Let me go ahead and put that on the watch list right now, so I don't forget. I also had a really light week. I saw 2 movies. The only one I can really talk about is called Host. This is directed by Rob Savage. This came out on Thursday on Shudder. And this is a movie that was shot entirely via Zoom. Now, I didn't watch this on Thursday when it came out, and I did get an advanced copy of it, and I didn't watch it then either, because I was just like, there's going to be an onslaught of these pandemic movies, shot entirely during the lockdown or whatever. Yeah. And I'm just like,
you don't want to encourage that.
Right. There's going to be so many of them. I'm going to I'm not gonna like watch them all. I'm gonna bide my time. I'm gonna evaluate them and maybe watch the best one. Well, so that's why I was avoiding it. But I decided to give it a look anyway. I think I saw maybe one or two people on Twitter saying some positive things about it, and I was like, all right, I'll give it a look. I've been surprised before with horror movies, like the Unfriended series, for instance. Like I thought that I would hate those movies, and I ended up really liking them. And the same can be said about Host. It's a movie that is a very simple premise. It's six friends who are in lockdown in the UK during the pandemic, and they want to reconnect. They want to stay connected and still have fun together. So they meet on a Zoom call and hire a medium to do a seance. But
Oh, bad idea.
yeah, the problem is one of the friends decides to be a butthole and make some stuff up about a fake ghost, like a person who died in her past, like a classmate. And what this does is it actually just opens up a door for any old spirit to come through, and wouldn't you know it, a mean one comes through and
The demon spirit.
terrorizes all the people who are on this Zoom call. And you would think, like the other thing with like the whole like pandemic movie thing is like, I'm like, how good can the effects be? How good can any of it really be? But holy crap, like the effects work in this is actually really freaking good. Like there's CG in it. There's a lot of practical effects work in it. There's like things floating, things moving, people getting like picked up in the air and choked, and like all kinds of stuff that happens. And it was so much beyond what I expected it to be. I think that was the real surprise. And they use the whole Zoom platform as they use it as a mechanic for the whole movie, but they use some of the features within Zoom itself as a method of delivering horror, which I thought was a bit of a stroke of genius. So if you're familiar with Zoom, I know most of you have probably had multiple calls on Zoom at this point. You can do virtual backgrounds with Zoom, right? So you can remove your background and have the screen be whatever you want. You can put pictures there, put a video there, sort of like a green screen, but a little shittier. Well, they play with that in this because one of the friends has a virtual background on, and at one point something happens where she moves away from her computer, from her camera. So all you see is the virtual background, but then like she's kind of fading in and out of the foreground. And it works tremendously well. So if you have Shudder, I would highly recommend checking out Host. The other thing about it, 56-minute runtime. This movie gets in, it gets out. And the thing is, it's enough. There is a lengthy setup. It's pretty much a slow burn horror. So there's a really nice setup where they establish the characters. We get to know these people a little bit. And there's a nice slow build up to the craziness that happens at the end. So I think the pacing is on point. And it's definitely worth a look. Again, that's called Host. I have a full review up for this on the site.
That was intriguing. I'm very intrigued by the under 60-minute runtime.
Oh, yeah.
That definitely makes it far more appealing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Than initially. The only other movie I saw was Once Again, which is currently on Mubi. This is a directorial debut from Argentinian actor, author, playwright, theater director Romina Paula. She was in that movie La Flor. It's like
20 hours long. Yeah.
Yeah, 27 hours. It's 13 weeks long, I think. She also in like a bunch of Matthias Pinheiro movies, whole bunch of stuff. So her debut is on Mubi. You can watch it on there. And it mostly focuses on that she plays a mother of a 3-year-old son. And she's kind of like in this little bit of a crisis with her relationship. She moves back in with her mother, and then it's kind of split up where she's kind of like part daughter now and part mother, and she's kind of like inching her way out and like hanging out with her friends and stuff and trying to gain some independence and trying to figure out what to do with her life. And it's kind of just, like this midlife crisis deal, really, where she's trying to figure out what's going on and what she needs to do. And she really doesn't know what to do. And for the most part, it's an okay movie. It didn't wow me in any way outside of like the writing. The writing is really good. There's an interesting stylistic choice, which is a number of characters throughout the movie. They will kind of give this like little bit of a monologue in front of like a projected picture, like a landscape of some kind against like a wall, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, it's all right. Didn't wow me.
Okay. And that's once again. The only other one that I'll mention, and again, I can't talk about my opinions on it just yet because it is under embargo. I'll be covering the Fantasia Festival this year remotely. This is a huge genre film festival in Montreal, and we've covered it many, many times in the past. It's one of my favorite festivals, actually. They always have a really great lineup, and so I started some early viewings of what's being offered, and again, I'll just, what I'm going to do is just tell you the movie and read the synopsis and just kind of put it out there, because I feel like not a lot of people even know that this exists yet, because I asked Chris about it and he's like our resident Japanese movie expert and he hadn't heard of it either. So the movie's called Crazy Samurai Musashi. It's directed by Yuji Shimomura, and Yuji Shimomura, he hasn't directed too many things. He recently directed Reborn, a movie starring Tak Sakaguchi, which also stars in this movie. But Yuji Shimomura did a lot of stunt work on some really high-profile movies. And he did The Returner. He didn't direct it, but he did like the stunt work for The Returner. Remember that movie? It was like the Japanese Matrix. I really loved that movie. I want to go back and rewatch that. I bet it does not hold up.
Oh my god! As soon as I saw the poster, the cover, or whatever,
Yeah,
just like, yep, that's
it was like really like over stylized, crazy sci-fi action. Lots of if I remember correctly, there was like bullet time in it or something. Lots of CG, like rough looking CG work.
Oh, you can tell. I mean, he's got the full length leather duster.
Mm-hmm.
There's bullet time in that movie.
I want to rewatch that. Anyway, back to Crazy Samurai Musashi. The synopsis is this film taken around the time of Out in Deluxe, which I don't even know what Out in Deluxe is. Like, I researched it. I tried to figure out what Out in Deluxe is. I have no idea.
It doesn't really even make sense.
No.
Why are those words together? How is that a period in time?
Yeah, I have no idea. Consists of the most famous battle of the swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. In this 77-minute, one-scene, no-cut action sequence, Miyamoto, played by Tak Sakaguchi, defeats 588 enemies, one after the other. There's no room for error, no room for corny or unconvincing moves. That's all I'll say about it. Just putting it out there. We might do a Fantasia Fest episode on the show and talk about it. If not, I'll definitely be talking about it more when it officially comes out. But just keep an eye on that one.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely want to see that.
All right, let's take a look at what we have on VOD this week. On August 4th, we have Ride Your Wave. This is a Japanese animated film.
Okay.
Looks pretty good, actually. Kind of interested in that. Starlight. Not sure what that is. We got Crushed. I feel like that movie's come out like 5 different times, but it's coming out again.
Probably.
Crushed. The Stand, How One Gesture Shook the World. That's a documentary about the 1968 Olympics. We have Limbo, A murderer finds himself on trial in hell, caught between a bitter prosecutor and an inexperienced defense attorney.
Uh-huh.
We have Red Penguins. That is another documentary about the famed Red Army hockey team. We have on the 6th La Lorna, which is on Shudder. We have The Tax Collector on the 7th. This is a David Ayer movie starring
Okay. This is it.
Bobby Soto and Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, okay. Oh, Shia LaBeouf vehicle.
Yeah.
Watch out. Watch out now. Collecting taxes.
I'm not so sure about this one. It looks like a very
Yeah.
it looks like a David Ayer movie, that's for sure. Also on the 7th, we have The Secret Garden. This is obviously an adaptation of the classic work from the producer of Harry Potter and Paddington, Colin Firth's in this bad boy.
Don't watch out.
Yeah, I'll skip that. I don't know. I never liked The Secret Garden, like the story.
I have no idea what The Secret Garden is.
You never watched any of the movies in school at all? I remember we watched one of the, I don't know which one, but there was some version of it that we watched in school at some point.
There's a shitload of The Secret Garden movies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. There's tons.
My God.
We don't need any more. Let's just be done with it. Unless you're going to do something like put a twist on it, make it a horror movie, folk horror movie or something.
Whoa.
Okay. We also have Spinster starring Chelsea Peretti. It's a comedy, romantic comedy. She's really funny, but that movie just doesn't look. It looks a little bit too sentimental. Like it just looks a little too sappy.
Gotcha.
We have Boys in the Wood. We have Sunless Shadows. This is going to be a virtual theatrical release. I Used to Go Here. This is a comedy with Gillian Jacobs.
Oh yeah, that's the new Chris Ray movie.
Could be funny. It's about a woman who goes back to her old college.
Jermaine's the old professor there. He's a former professor.
Yep, Jermaine Clement's in there. So could be funny. Some good people in it. That's pretty much it for VOD. Blu-ray this week. We have Swallow. This is a movie that came out earlier this year. I'd recommend it. It's a pretty creepy little thriller about a woman who has I can't remember that disorder where you eat things.
Just all sorts of things too.
Yeah. Did you see this?
No, I didn't. I heard a lot about it though.
Yeah, it's worth a look. It's definitely worth a look. I really enjoyed it. Shanghai Triad from 1995. Promare, which is a Japanese animated film from earlier last year. That might be coming out for the first time in the US. I'm not sure. House of Hummingbird. The Swimmer from 1968, starring Burt Lancaster.
Yeah, that's an interesting movie.
That's the one where you said the guy he just goes across his neighbor's swimming pools, right?
Yeah, he just takes the whole thing. Yeah, and then there's a short period of time where he acts like a horse too, though.
Very intriguing, that one.
It's an interesting movie.
Ride Your Wave is also coming out on Blu-ray. Toto the Hero is coming out. That's from 1991. Satan's Slaves from 2017 is coming out. That's on Shudder right now. So if you have Shudder, you can watch that. That's worth a look. That's a pretty interesting one. The Soul Collector from last year. A movie called Coma, which I'm not too familiar with. That's pretty much it. Not a whole lot on Blu-ray this week. What about Criterion? Do we have anything going on with the Criterion collection?
We have a re-release out on the Blu-ray. It's been in the Criterion collection for quite a while. The Lost Honor of Katharina Bloom. This is, in my opinion, a very underrated movie, underappreciated movie from Volker Schlondorf and Margaret von Trotta, and also underappreciated performance from Angela Winkler. This is a really good movie if you haven't seen it. I would say definitely check it out. It's a young woman spends the night with an alleged terrorist, and because of that, like her whole world is thrown into disarray. This is actually like one of the first Criterions I bought
Wow.
as a teenager.
Cool. Well, I think that'll do it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @filmpulsenet and @filmpulsekevin. And if you have a minute, consider reviewing us on iTunes. We'd appreciate that very much. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.